Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Fallen London. Today we're going to be carrying on with January's exceptional story, Adornment. And we're going to return to our lodgings and find that the smuggler has picked the lock and let himself in. The smuggler is sitting in your armchair, holding the Cunningham diamond up to the light and cooing in appreciation. Micah has taken it upon himself to dust your hard-to-reach shelves. That was kind of it. Now let's ask about the next stage of the plan. The smuggler claims this diamond is dangerous. How do they plan to turn it into a weapon against Mr. Stones? The next and final stage is simplicity itself, says the smuggler. We simply need to ensure the Cunningham diamond ends up in Mr. Stones' possession. The curse will take care of the rest. Simplicity itself, repeats Micah levelly, as he delicately lifts up an ornament and dusts beneath it. We can't simply give it to Mr. Stones, says the smuggler. That'd set off alarm bells. It would do its research, find out about the curse and throw the diamond away after having us all arrested. Are you sure about that? I feel like Mr. Stones would just accept the diamond. So we can decry this superstitious nonsense? The smuggler is relying on this fantasy of a curse to destroy a master. Don't they know it's all poppycock? We can ask how he plans to sneak the Cunningham into Mr. Stones' possession. The smuggler has ruled out delivering it in person or by post. What other option is there? Or we could resolve to steal the Cunningham diamond for ourselves. Mr. Stones and the smuggler can battle over this thing as much as they like. You're the one who's going to end up with it. I mean, small part of me kind of wants the Cunningham diamond, not gonna lie. We can ask Micah about his secret. What information is the smuggler holding over him to have roped him into his scheme? Micah sighs. I am unfinished, he says. Mr. Stones cannot find out. But Mr. Stones is more than happy to employ unfinished men. Often they are promoted to much more powerful positions than other claymen. That is exactly the problem, says Micah. Unfinished men are considered to lack scruples. As such, the masters will send the unfinished to do the dirtiest of work, knocking down doors, bludgeoning heads, immiserating the populace. He pauses. I do not lack scruples. Despite my unfinished nature, I cannot do such things. I am happy just guarding the mine. I worked out that old Micah was unfinished when I was scouting the mines for entry points, says the smuggler. Spotted him reattaching his fake ear. Huh, interesting. Okay, what do we want to do here? Should we just go along with what the smuggler wants to do? As much as I want the Cunningham for myself, I think I'm going to ask how he plans to sneak it into Mr. Stones' possession. We want to ensure the diamond ends up directly in Stone's hands. Without using any patsy, he would be putting in danger, says the smuggler. That leaves us only the one option. We need to smuggle the Cunningham into Mr. Stones' mines and bury it somewhere. It will be quickly rediscovered. That's actually quite smart. They might be a bit weird that they found a fully cut stone just buried in a mine, but do we decry this superstitious nonsense? If you had asked King Louis XVI about his favourite diamond, I'm sure he would have called the curse a crock of nonsense too, says the smuggler, shortly before the guillotine fell. If you'd asked King George, he would have said something about how it was made of glass. But before his madness, he'd have said it was nothing more than an ordinary diamond. Then he lost both America and his mind. Oh dear, says Micah. You've got them started. What about London? demands the smuggler, standing up on the armchair and holding the Conyngham aloft. The diamond was in the city when London was stolen. It was only smuggled out at the last minute, moments before the darkness swallowed us, and it made its way to Paris, which by all accounts has been in chaos ever since. The smuggler sits back down, pink-faced with exertion. This diamond can topple kings and empires. It can take care of Mr. Stones. Trust me on this. I consulted a fortune teller. Oh, wonderful. A fortune teller. Great. Let's ask why the smuggler is obsessed with plotting Mr. Stones' downfall. They've gone to immense lengths to bring misfortune upon a master's head. Why? A far-away look steals over the smuggler's face. They sniff back a noble tear. "Mr. Stones took my husband from me," they say. "Please, the details are too painful to discuss. Just know that I will not rest until that bastard is in the ground." The smuggler continues to stare into the middle distance. "You're a decent actor, but you've seen better. And besides, it all seems a bit convenient for your liking. They're lying about their motive. You're sure of it. But you're not sure why." It really wants me to resolve to steal the Conyngham, doesn't it? It's just there. It's just constantly there. And I kind of want it, but no, we're going to carry on. Plan to meet Micah and the smuggler, and Mr. Stones is mine. It is time to begin the final stage of Smuggler's grand scheme. "Dear Lord," sighs Micah. "What did I do to deserve this?" "This'll be easy," says the smuggler. "Don't worry, nothing can possibly go wrong." The Conyngham glints darkly in their hand. Proceed with the smuggler's plan and return to the mines. Proceed with the smuggler's plan and return to the mines, or if you are so inclined, spill the details to Mr. Stones. Let's go meet Mr. Stones. This time, you meet Mr. Stones in its astrarium, a vast room within the bazaar that Mr. Stones must have ordered custom-made at great expense. Maze-like tunnels of onyx and smoked glass ripple throughout, darker than darkness of nights, each embedded with innumerable gemstones, sapphires, emeralds, diamonds, milk-white opals, twinkling in painstakingly recreated constellations. The effect is a little like being a wandering god, strolling with impunity through the night sky. Yet the black tunnels are narrow in places and treacherous underfoot, making the experience simultaneously claustrophobic. "Curse," says Mr. Stones, once you've finished explaining. "Childish notion. What is this smuggler planning to do with the Conyngham?" Let's detail the smuggler's scheme. I don't want to throw Micah under the bus. I feel Micah's not that bad. They plan to plant the Conyngham within Mr. Stones' own mine, allowing the master to naturally rediscover it. As you walk through the astrarium, struggling to keep up with the long strides of the master, you begin to hear an odd whimpering sound, almost drowned out by an incessant clatter, like 1,000 dice being rolled at once. "You have proven useful," says Mr. Stones, "but I am a step ahead. Observe." You are confronted by the sight of a ruined Bonapartist. He is imprisoned within a glass box only a little larger than a coffin. "Caught him trying to sell the diamonds you gave him," says Mr. Stones. "New to the city, didn't know that the diamonds are mine, all mine. Now he knows." A hatch is open above the Frenchman. Thousands and thousands of sparkling diamonds are raining down onto him as he clutches his bleeding scalp and whimpers. They've almost heaped as high as his knees. Uh-oh. On the plus side, Mr. Stones' opinion of us has risen. We are a temporary ally. Information was offered freely, says Mr. Stones. Thought he could save his own skin. Incorrect. The diamonds continue to cascade down onto the wailing Bonapartist, a grotesque and glittering waterfall. They've now heaped almost as high as his elbows. His blood is stark and horrid against the shining white. Does this constitute drowning or crushing? Asks Mr. Stones. Unsure. Must inspect lungs afterward. What options do we have here? We can assure the wailing Bonapartist that he'll come back. He's from the surface, perhaps he doesn't realise that he needn't be quite so dramatic about death. Or we can beg Mr. Stones to spare the man's life. Surely this is going too far, even for a master of the bazaar. Let's beg for his life. I feel this is a step too far. Your words seem to have an effect. Mr. Stones says nothing, pulls a lever in the wall. A cascade of diamonds slows to a trickle, then stops. The hatch closes. Merci, whispers the Bonapartist, pressing his bloodied face against the glass. Merci. Mr. Stones summons some claymen with an irritated flick of its talons. They unlock the glass box and begin to dig the Bonapartist free. The master drags its attention back to you. Play along with the smuggler's scheme, it says. I will intervene when appropriate. Glances back at the box of diamonds. And administer due punishment. The Bonapartist is dragged away, whimpering. Well, at least we saved that man. If nothing else, we saved the Bonapartist. Okay, let's infiltrate Mr. Stones' minds. Ever since the collapse, Mr. Stones' mines have doubled their security. Clay men guard every entrance and every exit. Sneaking in won't be easy. We'll need to make careful preparations first. Alright, what options do we have then? We can disguise yourself as miners. The smuggler still has the dust-coated overalls they were buried in. Micah actually does work here. Only you need to make an outfit. We can get other miners good and drunk. When sober, the miners are vigilant. When drunk, no one is vigilant. Or we can just bribe an overseer. A few shiny baubles in the right pocket can do wonders. I reckon we're gonna bribe the overseer here. You visit the overseer in his cabin, overlooking the quarry. His scowls turns to a simpering smile when you slide the glim across the table. It's amazing the stuff I miss if I'm not wearing my eyeglasses, says the overseer. And sometimes I just leave them on the table here when I should be keeping an eye out, usually between 3 and 4 in the afternoon. It's damn silly of me. There you go, easy. We're also going to get the miners drunk. Why not? You deliver a crate of fortified wine to the break room, labelled courtesy of Mr. Stones. For all your diligent work, have as much as you like. Perhaps a more vigilant band of miners would have suspected something was up. You find that people tend to suppress their critical faculties when it comes to free wine. You hear a chorus start up. For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow, his name is Mr. Stones. Within the hour, miners are stumbling back and forth across the quarry, attempting to ride the mules and challenging claymen to fisticuffs. They're certainly less likely to spot you now. We are making this place an absolute riot of a party. Wait, I could send my sorrow spider to create a distraction. I don't have a fairly tame sorrow spider. Slightly a shame, but no, let's disguise ourselves as a miner. 93% chance. I am wearing my lab workout, my clothes, which isn't the most shadowy I've ever been. A set of overalls, some heavy boots, a dented tin helmet, a dab of coal dust, and a downtrodden expression for authenticity. There, the spitting image of a miner. To test the disguise, you scramble down into the quarry and walk around. The other miners greet you with gruff acknowledgements, stoic nods, and the occasional slap on the arm. Perfect. Your preparations are complete. Now's as good a time as any. The mines resemble an upturned anthill, with workers rushing back and forth, ignoring the cries for order from the overseer. You're unlikely to be noticed. Micah has taken his customary place as a guard at the mine entrance. You and the smuggler are positioned at the quarry's edge. Looking around at the surrounding chaos, Micah glances up and beckons to you both. The smuggler folds away their spyglass. Now, they mutter. You've done everything you can. You should be able to sneak in without attracting notice. Ooh, set your affairs in order, you may be occupied for some time. You and the superstitious smuggler dash across the quarry and duck through the mine entrance. Micah follows silently, casting one quick glance back at the outside world. To the great relief of your companions, you aren't spotted. The smuggler lights a lantern and holds it up, casting a critical eye around the tunnel you found yourself in. We need to go deeper, announces the smuggler. It'd be too obvious to leave it right at the entrance. You've moved to a new area, the abyssal depths. Oh, wonderful. Look, there's no picture up here. This is just terrifying. You plunge deeper and deeper into the mine, taking rickety elevators down dizzying mine shafts and walking until your soles are sore. Several hours in, you have no idea how deep below London you are. Dozens of miles, and yet the smuggler still hasn't found somewhere authentic to plant the Cunningham. Where did you hide it? Asks Micah. In here, the smuggler reaches up and taps their eye, producing a clear, ringing sound. I didn't know you had a glass eye, says Micah with some surprise. Lost it in an explosion, says the smuggler grimly. I do not elaborate. Then suddenly, aha! Here will do. This pile of rocks looks identical to every pile of rocks you've passed on the way here, but far be it from you to criticize the smuggler's methods. Let's hide the Cunningham diamond among the stones. The smuggler reaches up to remove their eye. At that moment, as the superstitious smuggler struggles to get a grip within their eye socket, you hear thudding footsteps coming down the tunnel. No, says the smuggler, shaking their head. There can't be anyone down here. It's impossible. A hunched shape appears at the tunnel's end, silhouetted against lantern light. Its hood scrapes the ceiling. Its claws are long and sharp, and dripping with encrusted jewels like the ichor of some dead rainbow god. Mr. Stone. The master approaches you at a leisurely pace, flanked by its two favourite lackeys, Jasper and Frank. The two big clay men look small next to Micah, but there are two of them, and they are holding some very imposing hammers. Jewelry business must be getting tough, Jasper, drawls Frank, hefting his hammer. Gemstones are so common they're putting them back in the ground now. Must be trying to grow a diamond tree, says Jasper. Mr. Stones ignores its lackeys, stalking toward the smuggler. With each step, you can hear hundreds of bracelets jangling under its robes. Its claws are extended, glinting like sequined scalpels. As it approaches, it seems to grow in size. "Collapse my mines," says Mr. Stones, pinning the smuggler to the wall with one talon. "Fool around with my diamond. Mine. How dare thee?" Micah rushes forward, but Jasper and Frank deal him a few solid blows with their hammers. He goes stumbling back and lays still. The smuggler flails ineffectually at the statue's still arm pinning them to the wall. Mr. Stones lifts the other talon and reaches for the smuggler's eye socket, fishing for a grip on the glass eye with the razor tips. Okay, so we can physically intervene on the smuggler's behalf. Unhand them, fiend! This could go wrong. I quite like the fact that they put "this could go wrong." I agree. Attacking a master, not the smartest move. We can plead with Mr. Stones to show mercy. The master is getting what he wants, either way. Surely you've earned a favour. Can it let the smuggler live? Or we can hold the smuggler's arms behind their back. This would be easier for everyone if they weren't struggling so much. Or we can watch them struggle with interest. Seems clear who will triumph. Or we can flee. Well, this was fun. A Scarper. God damn it. Let's... Oh, this is a tough decision. So we can either show our true colours by holding the smuggler's arms behind his back. I don't want the smuggler to die. I mean, in theory, we can get Mr. Stones the diamond, and then if it is cursed, so be it. On the other hand, Mr. Stones has the diamond, so maybe Mr. Stones will be happy because he has the diamond, and the smuggler will be happy because Mr. Stones has the diamond. I mean, it seems like a win-win scenario, assuming the smuggler survives. Or, for once, I could just be really evil and side with the masters because I never do. Think of the profit. You know what, I'm gonna hold the smuggler's arms behind their back. Why not? That man tried to steal my diamonds. You pin the smuggler's arms. "Much better," says Mr. Stones, as its talons dig into the smuggler's eye. Great shadows unfold from its shoulders, blotting out most of the lamplight and plunging you all into near darkness. Great flurries of dust fall from the ceiling as the shadows extend further and further. Boss," says Frank hesitantly. "Maybe don't." "I have it!" shrieks Mr. Stones in triumph, yanking something free from the smuggler's eye. It shatters the glass shell against the wall and holds up the Conyngham in triumph. The diamond sparkling strangely bright in the paltry light. "All mine!" The smuggler kicks out feebly, in exultation or irritation. The great shadows stretching from Mr. Stones' shoulders flex and grow vaster still, filling the tunnel from floor to ceiling, pushing both Jasper and Frank away. You hear a series of splinters and snaps as the support beams snap. That wasn't very smart, was it, Mr. Stones? We've been entombed. Cracks spiderweb the ceiling above. A horrific groan drowns out all thought. The groan becomes a roar. Then, with a final ear-shattering bellow, the mine collapses on your head. Well, we can come to our senses. You look around. The grinning face of the boatman is not in evidence. So we didn't die. Ouch. You are somehow, improbably, alive, buried up to your chest. Dust fills your lungs. Dig, scramble, get out. Ignore the hideous aching of your ribs. Overcome the headache thudding dully behind your eyes. First, get free. After an hour's frantic digging, you slide out of the rubble like some kind of grotesque, dusty birth. It is utterly dark down here, and you are alone. The only sounds are your footsteps and the occasional heart-stopping creak of the earth overhead. or trapped in a collapsed mine? Are you alone down here? With one hand on the wall for guidance, you explore the tunnel that led you here, stumbling only occasionally amidst the rubble. Finally, you arrive at a dead end. A section of the mine has completely collapsed, blocking off escape to the surface. There's a maze of other tunnels down here though, too many for one person to explore in a month. You need all the help you can get. What became of the others? If you survived, the clay men certainly should have. Mr. Stones too. The smuggler's survival is less likely but not impossible. Let's see who survived. You sift through the rubble for an entire day, pausing only to lick mildew from the walls and eat a few small, pale grubs you find squirming under an abandoned miner's helmet. How much longer can you survive like this? Just as your gloomy thoughts are mounting, you hear rocks sifting among the rubble. A scrambling for freedom, a faint call for help. Frantically, you dig, casting rocks aside until finally, there, among the rubble, you found someone. You pull aside a rock to reveal an arm sticking up like a flag of surrender. So we can either save Micah, or we can save the smuggler. From what I can see. A clay arm, to be precise. A little assistance would be appreciated, says Micah, his voice muffled. Or we can pull the survivor free. It's a human hand, still clutching what feels like an extinguished lantern. Holding the wrist, you find a weak but determined pulse. Let's save Micah. I feel Micah's more useful. With immense effort, you manage to pull the clay man partially out of the rubble. Once his shoulders are free, he's able to haul himself the rest of the way out. There are a few new cracks and dents across his body, whether from the collapse or Jasper and Frank's hammer blows. You can't tell, but he doesn't seem too badly hurt. Thank you, says Micah sincerely. I was not looking forward to spending the next 1,000 years buried down here. He glances around. Our first priority should be finding the smuggler, he says. After all, they are only human, and as much as I detest them, I cannot allow them to die down here. Well, he raises a valid point. When you press your ear against the wall, you can hear a faint tapping reverberating down the tunnel. There are still survivors down here somewhere. Search must continue. Micah has already proven a great help. He has managed to locate a long-abandoned box of rusty miner's equipment, including a pickaxe that has proven invaluable in your search. Search for other survivors? With every day that passes, the likelihood of finding someone dwindles, but you have to try. We've been eating some mildew again? Who have we found? It is the smuggler. The human hand, still clutching what feels like an extinguished lantern. The smuggler is unconscious and unmoving. You haul them free and prop them up against the wall. Their breathing is alarmingly sporadic. On the bright side, you manage to get their lantern working again. In the dwindling light, you realize that both the smuggler's legs are unnaturally bent. They've badly broken them. An hour later, the smuggler wakes up coughing great billows of dust from their lungs. I should have known, they mutter. I thought I could escape the curse. If I had only held the Cunningham for a moment. Look at me. Micah hurries over. Oh dear, he says, kneeling beside the injured smuggler. Let me help. I'm sure I can improvise a splint out of something. What have we got new here? The superstitious smuggler is hunched against the wall, nursing their broken legs. They are pale and feverish, and cannot be drawn into conversation. Let's see if we can find someone else. Investigating the maze of tunnels, you find yourself standing at the bottom of a mine shaft. So high, your lantern light cannot reach the top. But you do make out a huddled shape nestled in a crevice of the wall. A pair of eyes snap open, with the huddled shape gleaming malevolently in the lamplight. Your lantern flickers and the creature is gone. The air stirs. Something passes overhead. You turn and find that Mr. Stones is towering behind you. "No use," says Mr. Stones without preamble. "No way out. Checked all routes. Frank and Jasper gone. We are trapped approximately 60 miles below London. Inconvenient. I have many things to do this week." Now you know you're not alone. You should work with your trapped comrades on finding a way out. Well, I feel like this is a good place for me to call this episode here. And in the next episode we shall try and find our way out of these mines. Oh my, this is a terrible situation to be in. But thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And as always, I'll see you next time.